All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we recap everything that happened in 49er land on this Friday, February the 20th. That's right. And of course, check out Pig and a Pickle. 3 locations, well, 2, and then a third on the way in Petaluma, but they're in Corte Madera, they're in Emeryville, and they have a third on the way in Petaluma in 2026. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Go say hi to Damon and Mary, get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And of course, we're also always brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show as well. All right, we'll get into Plank Oakland in just a sec. But story of the day, Maxx Crosby and the 49ers are now, well, they're partners. Is Maxx Crosby a Niner? No, he's still a Raider. But Maxx Crosby now owns a soccer club that is also partially owned by the owners of the 49ers. That's right. Maxx Crosby is part of the UFC ownership group. And Crosby revealed today that he's joined the ownership group of Leeds United, a professional soccer club based in Leeds, West Yorkshire, England. And they compete in the Premier League. So there you go. Now Maxx Crosby has a piece of the pie of Leeds United through his ownership stake in the UFC. The Niners also own parts of Leeds United. So they're co-owners. They're co-owners together. What does it all mean? Does it mean that Maxx Crosby is going to be a Niner? I don't think so. Yeah, I really don't think so. But, we'll see. It definitely doesn't make it more unlikely that he would become a 49er. I don't know if it becomes more likely that he's going to be a 49er. It is interesting, though, that they are now both co-owners. Albert Breer, so according to the, Sleeper is predicting the 49ers only have a 3% chance of trading for Maxx Crosby. Okay. Crosby, Breer said that it probably is going to take a first round pick and something. The Raider report earlier in the week was that they wanted 2 number ones and a significant player. If it's 2 number ones and a significant player, I don't think the 49ers can swim in those waters. If it's a first and then something, maybe the Niners could swim in those waters. When I say and then something, like let's say that you just traded 1 pick in this draft, your first round pick, and maybe a 3rd round pick in next year's draft and a player of some kind. Coach Yak had on his Twitter today, Crosby for a 2026 first, a 2027 third, and Jair Brown going back to the Raiders. So I still don't think it's likely. I don't think the 49ers can afford to pay Maxx Crosby and Nick Bosa the percentage of the cap that they would command. But they are now co-owners. They're co-owners of a soccer team together. So I don't think this makes it more likely, but it definitely doesn't make it less likely that the 49ers would trade for Crosby. I'm sure the Niners like Crosby, and I'm sure the Niners would love to add Crosby. But there's this little thing standing in between, and that's Mark Davis. And also the fact that the Raiders are looking to hit the mother load. I mean, they want the Micah Parsons package, which is 2 number ones and Kenny Clark. So the Niners don't have that to trade. I mean, I don't think the Niners would trade that. Matt Barrows was asked recently, hey, what do you think the Niners would trade for Maxx Crosby? And he said a 2nd round pick. So a first in this year's draft, Jair Brown, and a 3rd round pick in next year's draft is definitely higher than a 2nd round pick. But who knows? Who knows? The 49ers have a number of needs, that's for sure. One NFL writer did an article today saying a trade that they'd like to see for every team. And the Niner trade was a very interesting trade. It was the Niners and the Steelers getting together on a deal where the Steelers trade for Mac Jones. Not surprising because the Steelers need a quarterback and the Niners have Mac Jones, who's ready and able to help the Steelers. And it's the AFC team, so you don't have to worry about that. You trade him to the other conference. You're doing right by Mac. You're trading him to a very steady, solid organization. So he's got a good offensive line in front of him. You'd be doing a good thing for Mac. The Niners in return, that's the question Niner fans care about. It would be Nick Herbig and a 6th-round pick in this year's draft, number 215 overall. It's an interesting package because the pick is obviously a low pick, a late day 3 pick, but Herbig is a really interesting defensive end. Now, the Steelers run a 3-4, and so this guy has been kind of a 2-point stance outside linebacker who can rush the quarterback or drop, and he's not hand in the dirt guy. He's a little lighter than what the Niners typically like in their edge-setting players, but there's no question Herbig is a really good pass rusher. And he's got a great motor. He's a total dog. He would help. He'd probably instantly become, outside of Bosa, their best rusher. I really like him. His brother, Nate, of course, went to Stanford. They called him Big Island. Nick went to Wisconsin and has sat behind, TJ Watt on that second team. And he's just if you looked at his production last year, I think his pressures per snaps played ratio was maybe the best in football. Nick Herbig's ready for a bigger role for sure. And that would be a nice player. You'd get a nice rusher and a 6th-round pick. Now, to me, I think I would want more like Nick Herbig in a 3rd or a 4th-round pick. Because Mac Jones, once again, supply and demand. If the Niners don't make that trade, who's the next quarterback that you're getting for Nick Herbig in a 6th-round pick? That would be my answer if I was John Lynch to Omar Khan. All right, if I say no to you, who else what's the best quarterback you can get next for Nick Herbig in a 6th? Yeah. That's why I'm saying I want a 3rd. Bleacher Report had a report out today saying that they believe the 49ers and the Saints should do a trade where the Saints get Brandon Aiyuk, and basically anything coming back on the Niners side would be good because the Niners, Niner fans consider Aiyuk already gone. In this trade, the Niners would get a 2026 6th and a 2027 conditional day 3 pick based on games played and production from Aiyuk. And the Saints would get Brandon Aiyuk. It's really it's interesting. It's a real buy low deal for the Saints, but it also enables them to kind of jump the line and get a player that might be on the mend. I mean, I'd do it. I would do it. Anything to get down the road, really. I'd take a 6th-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk at this point. Why not? Why not? Better than nothing, As I mentioned before, Breer weighed in on the Maxx Crosby. He says, I don't think he'll cost you 2 1st-round picks, maybe a 1st and something else. That's how he phrased his analysis, a 1st and something else. If it's a 1st and something else, that might not be bad. Kind of an interesting note here. The 49 PFF had their top 101 players from the 2025 season, and they had Trent Williams at 20, George Kittle at 27, Christian McCaffrey at 54, Colton McKivitz at 63, and Brock Purdy at 81. I'm a little surprised that Purdy is 81. I thought he would be more like in the 60s. And I'm a little surprised that McKivitz is as highly rated as he is. But there you go. If you said how many of the top 100 players in the NFL do the Niners have? Well, according to PFF, they've got 5. Trent, Kittle, McCaffrey, McKivitz, and Purdy. And obviously they've got more because Bosa and Warner would be on this list had they been healthy. So the Niners still have a good chunk. I mean, if you think about the top 100 players in the league, there's 28 teams or 32 teams, in the NFL. 32 teams in the NFL, top 100 players. Niners may have 8. Trent, Kittle, McCaffrey, McKivitz, Purdy, Bosa, Warner. So that's a pretty good number. Definitely more than the average. DraftKings. Oh, and we should also tell you before we tell you anything else that this update This 49er reports and this 49er breakdown is brought to you by our friends at Plank Oakland. That's right, plankoakland.com. Check them out. The Niner practice reports this year, all season long, were brought to you by our friends at Plank Oakland. It's a 50,000 square foot entertainment eatery at Jack London Square in Oakland. And they opened up this brand new area called the Hub, which is their brand new sports viewing space inside. It's got a massive 30-foot media wall, 70 TVs. It's a really cool spot. There's a 12 bowling lanes. There's bocce, arcade games, stuff for the kids. Great food, fantastic food. They got an outside beer garden. It's like 15,000 square feet, 49 different beers on tap. Man, when the weather is really good, that is the spot to just hang out there at Jack London Square in Oakland. Check it out online. It's a great place to bring your friends, your family, your work friends, have a work party. Plankoakland.com. Great spot. Love that place. Plankoakland.com. And thanks to Plank for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, couple other notes. DraftKings came out with their over-under win total on the 2026 season, and they had the Niners at 10.5. And I went through and I looked at their schedule, and it's interesting. I have them at 11-6. 11-6. So over, slightly over, but over. They are going to play at Arrowhead, and they're going to play the Chargers at SoFi, and I think both those teams could be really good. But it does look favorable, pretty favorable outside. The division, of course, is going to be tough because the division is tough. But the Niners over under at 10.5 wins. And just looking at it right now and just projecting even a decent offseason, I would say the Niners, I like them 11 wins. 11-6. Not over by a ton, but we'll see how the draft and the free agent period goes. Bleacher Report's Alex Ballantine did one trade for each NFL team, and 3 of them involved the 49ers, 2 centered on Mac Jones, and one kind of explored the potential of a return for Brandon Aiyuk. But trade 1 proposal I thought was kind of interesting. Mac Jones to the Vikings. The Niners deal Jones to the Vikings for future draft capital. Vikings get Mac Jones. The Niners get a 2026 third-round pick and then a 2027 conditional pick, which could be a fourth-round pick that escalates to a second-round pick based on snaps and performance. That would give the Niners immediate and future assets while providing Minnesota insurance behind J.J. McCarthy. I still think that is a trade that reflects Mac Jones's actual value, but I think his value is actually greater because of his contract and the laws of supply and demand. So you have to pay a premium because of his contract. He's got a very favorable contract, and you also have to pay a premium because he's the only quarterback that's out there. So why are we dealing with you, Vikings? We could deal with Cardinals. We could deal with the Raiders. We could deal with the Jets, the Steelers. I mean, the Falcons. I mean, there's a lot of teams. The Colts. There's a bunch of teams that would love Mac Jones. So, yeah, I think that's a fair trade. If you just said, what's Mac worth as a player and what would be fair, I think that would be fair if there was no leverage advantage, right? If there was no leverage, neither side had leverage, I think that would be a fair trade. Vikings get Mac Jones. Niners get a third-round pick this year and a pick next year that's conditional, that maybe's a fourth, maybe's a third, maybe's a second, something like that, based on how Mac does. Yeah, I would say without supply and demand, that's a pretty fair trade. When you factor in supply and demand premium and his contract and how unbelievably cheap he is. I mean, because you're going to be able, whoever gets him is going to be able to surround him with a really good roster because it's like a $3.1 million cap hit for Mac this year. So it's really favorable. So that's why the Niners are like, no, we're not moving him because they don't need to. I mean, they got a super favorable cap situation with him. And that's also why he's more valuable, because anybody who gets him, they get him. but they also get him at super cheap. So you're getting him at super cheap. And then if he played terrible, you're on the hook for nothing. So, you know, Mac Jones for a third and then a conditional pick in 27. That's a fourth right now for sure and could work its way to a 2. I think a 3 and a 2 is probably the right price for Mac. But then you factor in, the supply and the demand and the desperation, how important quarterback is. And I would say if I were the 49ers, I'd want Jordan Addison in that thing as well. To me, I would do this deal tomorrow if this deal was Mac Jones for a 2026 third, Jordan Addison, and this conditional 27 pick. And to me, that's what I've been saying for weeks. I said it's going to take a 2, a 3, and a player. And that would be it. That would be the 2. The 3 would be this year. Maybe next year could be it's probably going to wind up being at least a 3, right? Because Jones is going to be the starting quarterback. And if it was based on snaps and that kind of thing, I think he probably stays healthy. So, that would be my guess. I would say it's probably almost like 2 3s and the receiver for Mac Jones. I think that's fair. In an off season where there are no other options at quarterback, what are you going to do? You can tell the Niners no, and there's only one Kyler Murray. There's only one Fernando Mendoza. Then there's Malik Willis. After that, it's like, what? What are you going? Really? Who are you going to go with? Really? You going to call up Derek Carr? So, interesting though. A lot of interesting stuff there, including the Maxx Crosby. Maxx Crosby and Jed York are co-owners of a lead soccer team. Think about that for a second. Will that drive the Niners to get Maxx Crosby in red and gold? I think the Niners are motivated. I'm sure Crosby's motivated. I bet you the Niners would love it. I bet Crosby would love it. There's this Mark Davis guy, though, that probably wouldn't love it, and that would be my guess. I'll still stay with I don't think it happens just because I think Mark Davis is that petty. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to our friends at Sleeper. And, of course, check out Plank Oakland. PlankOakland.com on the web. Check it out. It's a place you'll go. You'll love it. You'll think it's fantastic. And thanks to Plank Oakland for sponsoring this video as well. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.